In the quiet town of Brooksville, a chilling crime unfolded that would leave the community in shock. A 14-year-old girl, known for her academic excellence and composed demeanor, orchestrated a murder so meticulously planned that it rivaled the cunning of seasoned criminals. This is the haunting tale of how innocence can mask unimaginable darkness. If you're drawn in by the chilling details of this case, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the deeper we go, the darker it gets. Leave a comment below. What do you think drives a child to commit such a cold-blooded act? Emily Harper was the kind of student teachers adored. Quiet. Brilliant. Respectful. The straight-A daughter of respected community members Thomas and Linda Harper. From the outside, her life looked perfect. Thomas was a structural engineer. Linda, a pediatric nurse. They lived in a pristine two-story colonial home. To neighbors, they were the embodiment of the American dream. But perfection has its cracks, often hidden behind closed doors. Emily was their only child. Raised with high expectations and strict rules. Her every move watched, every grade scrutinized. But behind her docile smile was a storm brewing. Her only escape? A boy named Jake Thompson. Jake was 15, rough around the edges. Suspended twice, known for his short fuse and troubled home life. But to Emily, he was freedom. Rebellion. The only one who understood her growing resentment. Together, they became something dangerous. What began as teenage venting turned into whispered fantasies. Emily and Jake started talking about escape, what life would be like without her parents controlling her every move. The conversations became darker. More detailed. A deadly seed took root. Emily, ever the perfectionist, began researching. Not just any murder, but the perfect murder. She read about poisons, crime scene staging, and how to manipulate digital evidence. She even drafted floor plans of her house. She knew where the cameras were. Which doors creaked. Where her parents kept their medication. The plan was finalized. Emily would disable the security system and drug her parents. Jake would sneak in and rob the house, staging it as a burglary gone wrong. They timed everything to the minute. 9:12 p.m. Emily brewed chamomile tea for her parents, adding a crushed mix of antihistamines and prescription sedatives. They drank it unsuspectingly, praising her for being so thoughtful. At 10:03 p.m., Jake slipped through the back door. Gloves on. Knife in hand. Emily handed him the family's silver jewelry box to scatter around the living room. But then, something went wrong. Linda stirred. She wasn't supposed to wake up. She confronted Jake in the hallway. There was a struggle. He panicked. One stab. Then two. Then 5. Thomas, groggy but conscious, tried to intervene. He, too, was silenced. By 10:26 p.m., both parents were dead. Emily waited 10 minutes before calling 911. Sobbing. Convincing. Flawless. Initially, law enforcement treated it as a break-in. The doors were ajar. The living room was a mess. Valuables missing. But then, things started unraveling. The security system hadn't been tampered with from outside. It had been deactivated using the family's code. The valuables weren't really missing, just relocated. Nothing of real worth was gone. The blood patterns told a different story. There were no signs of forced entry. No signs of a struggle downstairs. But most damning of all, Emily's search history. On her school-issued laptop, police found queries like: how to stage a burglary, undetectable poisons, how long do sleeping pills take to work, how much blood is in the human body. Then came the text messages. Thousands exchanged between Emily and Jake. In them, they spoke about timing, dosages, Entry points. Jake cracked first. Faced with overwhelming evidence, he confessed. Not just to the murders, but to the entire plan. He named Emily as the mastermind. Claimed she manipulated him. That she watched, calmly, from the top of the stairs as her mother died. When confronted, Emily didn't flinch. She denied everything. Said Jake was obsessed. That he fabricated it all because she didn't return his feelings. But the evidence, it told a different story. The trial began in September. The media swarmed the courthouse. Teenage mastermind became a viral headline. Emily's face was plastered across TV screens. Cold. Unmoved. Brilliant. Psychologists evaluated her. Her IQ tested at 137. She showed signs of narcissistic personality traits and emotional detachment. But not insanity. The prosecution painted her as a calculating sociopath. The defense argued she was a victim. That Jake manipulated her. That she never intended for things to go that far. But those texts, those detailed plans, were hard to ignore. After a harrowing 6-week trial, the verdict was unanimous. Emily Harper, guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Because of her age, she was sentenced to 25 years to life in a juvenile facility, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Jake Thompson was tried as an adult. Life without parole. Emily Harper was just 14 when she was sentenced to 25 years to life in a high-security juvenile facility. Despite her young age, she was placed in a specialized wing reserved for the most dangerous youth offenders. Surveillance was constant. Interaction was minimal. But Emily thrived. Staff noted her behavior was eerily composed. She didn't lash out, didn't rebel. She read, wrote, and engaged in therapy with a calm, almost detached demeanor. But there was something unnerving in her eyes, like she was always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. She doesn't seem remorseful, one psychologist wrote in a confidential evaluation. She seems patient. A year into her sentence, prison staff intercepted a letter Emily had written. It was addressed to an unknown recipient, with no return address. Its contents were deeply disturbing. It read, "We had a plan. Jake was only the beginning. They think I'm done. But the next part will be much cleaner." Authorities tightened her monitoring, but she denied writing the letter. Claimed it was planted. No fingerprints. No DNA. No clear recipient. But 2 months later, a 17-year-old inmate who had recently befriended Emily attempted suicide. When questioned, the girl muttered, "She told me I'd never make it out alive anyway." Emily remained silent. Jake Thompson, now serving a life sentence without parole, became reclusive in prison. 3 years into his sentence, he requested to speak to a journalist, his first ever interview. He claimed Emily had manipulated him from the very beginning. She planned everything. Even the things that went wrong. It was like she wanted to get caught, but only to show the world how far she could go. When asked if he feared her still, he looked directly at the camera and said, "If she ever gets out, no one's safe." 2 weeks after the interview aired, Jake was found dead in his cell. Official cause, suicide. But prison logs showed something strange. Jake had received a coded letter just days before. One that ended with, "Checkmate." Over the next 5 years, Emily's behavior inside the facility grew more refined, more controlled. She aced every psychiatric evaluation. Her therapists began to advocate for reduced security measures. By age 20, she was leading peer support groups, mentoring other inmates, and had earned early admission into a college education program. "She's a model of rehabilitation," said the warden during a parole board meeting. But not everyone agreed. Dr. Evelyn Ruiz, a forensic psychologist who had reviewed Emily's past evaluations, testified via video call. She is not reformed. She is rehearsed. Her warning was ignored. Emily was granted parole after serving just 6 years of her 25 to life sentence. Her release sparked national outrage. Petitions flooded the internet. True crime communities erupted. But legally, she had met the criteria. Emily Harper, the girl once dubbed the teenage mastermind, walked free into the world again, at just 21 years old. She disappeared from the public eye, no interviews, no appearances. Just vanished. Until one day, she resurfaced. Dr. Evelyn Ruiz, the very psychologist who warned against Emily's release, went missing. Her home showed signs of forced entry. Her laptop was wiped clean. And a note was found on her kitchen counter. One word. Restart. Authorities reopened Emily's file. But she had an alibi, working under a new identity at a remote rehabilitation center in Oregon. No evidence linked her to the disappearance. But something felt off. Because 5 months later, another familiar face disappeared. Thomas Harper's brother, Emily's uncle, who had taken over as executor of her parents' estate, was reported missing after a break-in at his home. Security footage was mysteriously corrupted. But one neighbor's doorbell camera caught a fleeting glimpse of a woman standing in the driveway. Slender frame. Hooded. Carrying a satchel. The footage froze for just 2 seconds, long enough to catch the faint reflection of a face, one that looked eerily familiar. And beneath the grainy footage, audio captured a faint whisper, barely audible. Not done yet. Emily's story was supposed to end with justice served. But instead, it became a study in control, deception, and unfinished plans. If she was playing a long game, no one knows how far it reaches. Because evil doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes, it waits. Sometimes, it smiles. And sometimes, it writes the final chapter long before anyone realizes they're in a story. Thank you for watching Crime Cortex AI. And remember, not every monster hides in the shadows. Some sit in rocking chairs.